Hi, guys. Welcome to The Deciding Factor. I'm John.
And I'm Alton in a mask. That's why I sound funny.
And Barb's joining us again. The reason he is wearing this mask is because today's show is about COVID. We're going to give you an update on very important topics, such as the Texas mandate that was lifted, as well as several other states, vaccines, as well as schools opening or reopening. Or maybe they already have been open. You'll have to find out about that. And I'm sure you'll find out more about Alton's mask in the show. What else can they expect, though, Alton?
I think it was a pretty good show. I got to go on a lot of rants. And if you hang out to the end, Barbara actually slays it and has some really good, insightful stuff for you guys. So definitely hang in there. It's a great show. Don't forget to click that bell notification, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Enjoy.
All right, guys. Stay tuned and pay attention to Barb. We'll see you on this episode of The Deciding Factor.
Everyday life issues broken down to help you build your own opinions on the issues that matter most. Coming to you from Austin, Texas, this is The Deciding Factor with your host, Alton Hill and John Herzog.
All right, guys, we are back again. So, like we said in the intro, we are going to talk mandates, vaccines, and schools. So let's kick it off with a mandate and how Texas announced.
Can we say that?
I don't know.
I was gonna say, I think maybe it needs to be a woman date or like
what
a
about
person date.
A person date?
Yeah.
Politically.
Can we say
be a
person
man.
anymore though? I don't even know. Can we say
Yeah,
sort
is
of
that-
like a breathing individual date?
Yeah.
I'm gonna start bringing shot collars on this show. That way, when y'all start going on crazy rants, we just zap you every time.
Dude, you say man 3 times in a row. I'm just totally offended and overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So I have to
Yeah,
point that out.
exactly.
Yeah. So
And
like
what
I
were
was
we talking
trying to say is, Texas just announced that they were going to lift all the mandates and open up 100%. So did Florida and Mississippi. What a lot of people failed to realize is there were already several states that never even had state mandates. So now that
Texas is a big deal. That's why it's a big deal.
yeah,
Cheers,
it's most talked
Texas.
about. But so this is going to make, I believe, 16 states now that won't have any state mandates. So this is going to be kind of one of those big topics. And to be honest with you, Barb, you're up in Washington, so you probably haven't seen a whole lot of it, but there is a lot of mixed feelings out there.
So Barbara's not having any mandates lately. So I'm hearing.
No mandates for me. Not even a single
Oh.
woman date. Oh, sheesh. No, we just have tyranny. That's no. What I really want to know that, like, what I picture is if we ever actually got the mandate, the gender date thing, the thing lifted, that there would be like mask burning in the streets. And is it happening in Texas? Are we?
No,
Someone did that.
I
I heard
someone.
someone said that they were going to do that. And Heather was like, we should totally do that. I'm like, yeah, but I don't have any masks.
Like I did it 6 months ago.
Except for my, you know what?
you did. You had to wear one on the plane, remember?
I know. I'm wondering if I have it.
That was like the only time I've ever seen you wear a mask. The biggest problem I have is, we're opening up 100% and people are kind of whining, oh, it's too early. Okay. We've got a place called Alamo Draft House here in Austin that's kind of expanded into other cities. But just this week, they announced that they are going to file for bankruptcy. They're closing their doors. I mean, we've kept things closed too long. How are companies supposed to last? And we're still seeing the effects, and it really sucks. I love the Alamo Draft House. What does your thing say?
You can't read it?
It looks like a bee.
It's placebo.
Placebo.
Thank you.
Are you
Can I
gonna
do a
burn it on
podcast
the
in
air?
the mouth?
No,
'Cause
I can't
I
understand
would
you.
love it if you burned this during the episode at some point. That would just make my day.
Well, I wasn't really planning to.
But now you dared me.
But Heather's not here.
All right. Well, we can talk about real things then. Yeah. Okay. Let's see what gets me though. Is like if you're all the way open and people are uncomfortable with it, couldn't they, in theory, just stay home?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, go ahead and let people
No,
that aren't
I need to
afraid to open.
shame you for even
Oh.
thinking about having a normal life.
Okay.
People,
That's a
yeah,
fair point.
and I shouldn't like. That's the issue that I'm seeing that is perplexing to me, is that it's like we all have to do this because we're all in it together and we all want the pandemic to end, and so we need to take measures. And like I was listening to the DC secretary talk about, we all have to make these sacrifices.
We're gonna circle back to that.
Yeah.
Sacrifices when they're making how much?
What do you mean?
The politicians over there, they're making tons of money, even though the people are suffering.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like they keep asking everyone to be making these sacrifices, and I'm just feeling like I'm, if you've ever listened to the podcast, you know I'm a lover of freedom, and I feel like if you want to sacrifice, then you go sacrifice over there, but you don't really have the right for your to impact my pursuit of happiness in this way. I mean, that's how I feel about it. So yeah.
I think I'm also going to call the bluff on this whole, like, we're all in this together. Everybody wants it to end. I don't think they do. I don't think everybody wants it to end, because I think that the this is so politically driven. I honestly think that a lot of our government officials are loving this. This is power that has never before been afforded to them because we had a constitution, and they're managing to burn through a lot of that. So how terrible that I'm raising kids that when we go by stores that have those signs out front, like, we're all in this together. My 9-year-old can be like, yeah, we're really not in this together at all. I think we're trying to get some patriotic thing that just doesn't exist because we're.
Well, so they're blasting Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, for wanting to do this and saying, oh, you're doing it too early or whatnot. Look, he's just lifting it, letting everybody know you have your own choice to make. You talked about businesses still forcing you to wear a mask in their store or not have as many people in their store. They still have that right. I mean, it is what it is. Do I agree with it? No, but you have that choice. So
but you don't have to patronize them either.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing that as I've always stated, that the problem is, I know that people have good intentions, right? Like everyone had good intentions when they closed down the school. Like that wasn't like, oh, we want our children to be miserable and not get educated, right? Like no one said that. But what they said was like, man, we're afraid that everyone's going to die of this virus and it's high risk and we don't really know what's happening. So they close. And then now I feel like originally, 12 months ago or whatever, we all took these very critical actions because there was a lot of unknown, like, I don't want all of our kids to just get infected with this crazy virus and die in a day. So boom, we take immediate action, right? And then we're trying to figure things out, the 2 week to flatten the curve. And then, it's bled into a year now, but now we have information. Even though we have information, and I heard this secondhand that like Stanford just put out a study that showed how lockdowns aren't really affecting the coronavirus deaths. It's just not. And we talked to, Dr. Gold, who explained how masks aren't really, in very, very few circumstances are the masks actually helping, but it's spiraled into this insanity. There was this guy who was supposed to go to the doctor, and he had the COVID test. He had like his temperature taken, and then the guy's still like, well, no, I can't see you because you need to be in quarantine for like 5 more days. And so I feel that there's some of this things that have kind of just spiraled out of control to where, in my opinion, it's just pretty unreasonable, where we're forcing people into these really just like in the restaurants, and we talked about it, me getting kicked out of the restaurants. It's like, okay, well, if I would have just sat down faster, we could have all avoided the coronavirus.
Right. It's pretty obviously not about health anymore, right? Like if you've got someone that needs to go to the doctor and they're told, no, don't come back for 5 more days, right? And then we can see you because you're sick. I feel like a lot of people are having to lie on these screenings because they know they need care. And the screenings are getting so, I can't even say thorough because they're not really going for accurate information. This is just, I feel like each business needs to look like they are at the head of managing this. Like we are the safest to be around. I think I was telling you guys about being at the dentist where they asked you to check whether or not you'd had a subjective fever in the last 2 weeks. Did I tell you about this?
No.
It's like,
Tell us.
what in the world is so I asked him, like, is like opposed to an objective fever, like the kind that you could tell? And they said, yeah, if you have felt feverish or kind of thought you were warm and maybe had a fever, you could check this box. At which point you're required to go home and quarantine for 7 days. I'm like, well, what if I'm starting to feel sort of flushed just filling out this paperwork? Like I feel sort of
better get out.
subjective. Exactly. Go home and like quarantine. Don't come in here, man. And that has nothing to do with health. It's got nothing to do with preventing a spread of anything. We got to look like we're doing more than the next guy.
Well, it's kind of funny. We're lifting these mandates and right away you've got big companies or even like school districts that are saying, he's lifting the mandates, but no, you're going to wear a mask still. Kroger up in northern Texas, that's the big grocery store there. They've already said you're still going to have to wear a mask. TEA, the Texas Education Association, they've already said every school will still follow the mask mandates. And then, of course, there's several cities that are saying, no, we're still wearing a mask. I mean, they're still in place. Just because the state, the governor has said this doesn't mean anything. I also want to go on record saying I like some of the things that Greg Abbott does, but I am not a Greg Abbott lover. So before the comments come out, no, he's done some stuff that I don't like, but
yeah, he put us under all of those mandates for a year. That's the first thing I said. Everybody's like, oh, look at Texas. We're so proud. Yay. And I'm like, hello, we've been getting hosed for the last 12 months. Did y'all forget about that already? I mean, I'm happy about it. And I'm grateful personally that now we're not like bowing down to the government god, and I'm not on board with the schools, well, look at us. But at least I think that's where the decision should be made, even though I disagree with it. I'm way more in favor of individual schools making that decision than a governor or definitely the federal government. I mean, at least you can walk down to the people on the school board, right? You can go to the superintendent and be like, dude, what are you doing, man? This is dumb. Which is, I think, better for everyone, right? Because if you're leaning more on the, like, I'm not going out in public thing, then you can call your superintendent and be like, hey, man, keep this Zoom stuff going. And if you're like on the other side of it, or you want to meet in person, then you can call your superintendent and be like, hey, man, you better open the doors. This is getting ridiculous.
But the problem I have with that is ultimately they choose what still stays in effect, not the people. Because they can straight up say, I know all y'all want to not have masks or make it everybody's choice, but screw you, we're going to leave this in place. Come on.
But who's on the school board? Who hired that superintendent?
Not me.
Well, I mean, maybe you're not involved, but you could be. It's like my HOA does all sorts of stupid things, and I'm just trying not to know who the actual people are that are that close to me. But I could go be the HOA guy. So I have to own the fact that I'm not going to those meetings.
Like it's also, if it's put on the individual schools, because tell me if I'm wrong, but if it's not a mandate from the state and it's not a mandate from the federal government, then at least you're set up as a student or as the parents of a student for some legal action down the road, because we're all paying taxes into this public school system, right? And so if you've got a school that is refusing to educate your kid because the kid won't wear a bandana on their face, well, then you got something to stand on, right? You're not breaking the law, you're talking policy. And I feel like that gives you, at least, I don't think it's ideal, but I think it's more powerful than the position that we've been in for the last year, where it's like, we're being told that it's essential enough. The public schools are essential enough that they can take it out of my paycheck, but not essential enough that we should go. So, it raises some issues that I feel like maybe individuals could have a way to fight.
So one of the things that kind of makes me laugh is once they said that they're going to have the mandates lifted, is they already made a little meme for Facebook where it's like, I choose to wear a mask. And I mean, come on. I'm tired of all the crap. But one of the things that everybody keeps coming back to in all these topics that we're going to talk about today is the CDC. Okay. If your best argument is the CDC for me, it's not going to cut it. I'm sorry. These guys are supposed to go on fact, scientific, and medical proof. And this whole damn time, all they've done is given their opinion, and it's constantly changed and flip-flopped without any solid evidence. I'm sorry, but if I'm supposed to go by factual information that you have, which you had beforehand, and you said masks aren't needed, and then you turned around and said, okay, I think we should, the word think, and then on top of that, you then got confused whether it was to protect me, the person wearing the mask, or no, you're not doing that for yourself, you're doing it for others. I mean, you can't make up your mind. So how are you going to tell me that I'm supposed to believe anything they say? Now, I will say this. I will use every bit of studies that they have out there and throw it in their face when they show that they don't know what the hell they're talking about. And we've talked about it on other podcasts. Their numbers kept contradicting everything they would say. So don't talk to me about listening to the CDC, because as far as I'm concerned, they need to be removed.
Oh, but John, I think you've totally missed the point. The point isn't that it's scientific fact. The point is that the CDC is a political tool, and what is the best way to keep people under control is to keep them scared. So change the numbers all the time. You got to maintain fear if you're going to maintain this level of control. I think that that's how the CDC gets used effectively, right? I mean,
yeah. I mean, and really, and call me crazy again, like I go to a doctor because they're like sound medical advice, and I go and train jujitsu, which is the opposite of going to a doctor. It's like
they send you to the doctor.
Yeah. And so, okay, I go to jujitsu and my soul is like, rewarded for this crazy addiction of mine. And then they break my body. So I go to the doctor and I'm like, doc, man, I can't like turn my head. And I think my ribs out of place. And man, my muscles are just aching and like I can't really grip because my fingers, I think I hyperextended this thing. And they're like, whoa, you have got to take a break. 8 weeks, man. This rib, it's not going back in place on its own. And if you go and get crushed by these fatheads, it's going to be bad for you. You're going to be in pain. And then, your fingers, what happens, right? They get bent back in jujitsu. So you need to rest, ice, and that's going to help your hand feel better, right? So it's very obvious, the instruction that the doctor is giving me. Why? Because their bias is such to keep me from having this pain, right? Like that's what they're there to fix. But for me, like that's not the goal, is to avoid pain. My goal is that I want to train jujitsu. So doc, fix me up so that I can go back and get beat up. Like this is my goal. So, right. I mean, that's the thing. And so to me, when you hear someone from the CDC or any politician, it's like, well, your goal may not line up with my goal. And I think that that's where the issue kind of comes into play, is that people start assuming that everyone's goals should be the same. And the reality is that that's why we live in a free country. That's why I should be able to read Dr. Seuss. And you can't say that whatever, is because we live in a free country. And so it's like, you can advise me on all the great things, and that's great. And I appreciate it, doc. Like I'll ice it. I'll take a break for 3 days. And then I'm just going to,
and then I'll be back to see you next week on my ankle that I broke.
Like a pig, just right back. So anyway, I think that is how we need to look at these people is they're instructors, they're mentors, they're wise, they're gurus, but they're not. To me, the problem is when you take what the guru says and then turn it into law, and then they're fining me for not following the sage wisdom of the guru. It's like, whoa, what? Like,
Well, what about the cigarette smokers that want to tell you to wear a mask, but yet, they're out there giving us secondary smoke all the time, or their kids in the car? I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Put a Surgeon General warning on it. Say, hey, look, if you want to come eat at IHOP, you might die because people aren't wearing the masks, or kick them out. But to me, I mean, did y'all see my favorite meme was if y'all seen Sparta or 300, with the whatever his name is, but he tells them, I am a gracious God, just bow down. And I feel like that's what some of these governors, Abbott, are doing, is like, I shall lift the mandate because I am a gracious God. And it's like, wait a second, man, you're confused as to how this works.
I love how every movie quote you use is nothing anywhere near recent. It's always like from the 90s or something.
Classics, John, man. Classics.
Yeah, you have the weirdest bias. Like John won't watch movies that are made before the year 2000. So you're like, hey, you should go watch Casablanca. And he's like, old movie, man. I can't even.
I don't think I actually watched 300 until maybe the last couple of years. So it may be an old movie, but it's new. It's new to me.
You, yeah.
It finally came out free on Netflix.
Yeah. And the meme was from yesterday, dude. So
okay, so let's move on to vaccines. There's
more mandates.
I don't want to talk about mandates no more. I'm mandating that we move on from the mandates. So
maybe a non-binary date. Wouldn't that be the solution to the?
Maybe you're getting closer. I think
I'm offending myself just listening to this. This is never mind. Go on.
You and I are going to go on a date soon.
Are
25 years.
Hey, use that scratch off book that I saw. It's like add excitement to your dating life by using a scratch off book that tells you what you're going to do on your date.
Oh, that sounds so romantic.
Yeah. Anything that starts with scratch off. Okay.
Okay. So vaccines, we talked about them with Dr. Gold. If you didn't see that episode, make sure you check that out. But there have been several things that have happened since then. And one thing in particular, I'd like to touch on, we talked about you should have your own choice on whether you should take it or not. Here's the problem. I posted a list on our Facebook page, maybe our Instagram as well, but it's a list of questions.
Pinterest? Did we post it on Pinterest?
Oh, we're going to start that again, huh?
Since we're talking about vaccines, I had to take a shot at you, John.
Oh, but that was pretty beautiful.
Barb, you got to pick this up. You
Bringing the puns. Bringing the puns.
I almost don't have to pick it up because John likes Pinterest and I can just leave that there. That's enough. Yeah.
Anywho, I listed a thing of questions that you should take a look at because there's a lot of questions that are not able to be answered about the vaccines. One of the biggest things was if you want to have kids, or if you're planning on having one now, like you're pregnant, the problem is we don't know the outcomes. There is nothing out there to tell us whether or not there's going to be any effects on our kids or even us, really. I mean, there's some studies, but it hasn't been out long enough. So
you're making a big assumption that people both research and care past this. Panic gets us caring about this. The point is, can I go to school and not die? Can I not die and not go to school? I just don't think that there are questions that matter enough to people, because I mean, a lot of people I talk to, they in fact, I keep encountering people that have actually cut line in front of elderly people to get their vaccine, which I find kind of disgusting. And apparently it's a thing. Vaccination guilt is a thing. The shaming that you feel, or the shame that you feel if you cut in front of some nursing home so that you could get yours. But they're not, it's not about, do I think this is safe? Do I think that this is long-term? It's about, that's the key. The world gets to go back to some kind of normal as long as we all get stabbed a couple times. It's not turning out to be true. But I mean, I
But
think
they're
that's the logic.
contradicting themselves. They had a lady on Fox just a little while ago that was from Dallas. She got her vaccine. She's a masseuse, and yet she's going to mandate everybody still wear a mask in her store, even though she's been vaccinated. Like, if I get vaccinated, like, you can't ever ask me to wear a mask.
But that's the thing, though, man, is that you still don't know, and people who have been vaccinated can still get
Yeah.
the virus. They
Yeah.
probably just won't die from it.
Yeah. Well, they also don't even know how long it lasts. That was one of the other questions that I'd posed. There's nothing to tell you how long it's going to last. It may last a month. So you waited in line, you got all this hype about it, and that's it, a month.
But there's things that I think, like, if you don't agree with them, then they're like, well, that doesn't make any sense, because I mean, I don't want to get a vaccine. I'm not interested in it. I'm not opposed to it, though. I'm all in. Like, yo, if you want to go get it, great. But I'm also the guy who wants to ride a motorcycle at 200 miles an hour. And there's just no logic or reason to that. Right?
That's
It's
what
just
I'm
like,
saying,
I don't
yeah.
want to do it. And you're like, that's stupid and dangerous. And I'm like, I know, that's why I want to do it. So I think at some point we just have to let people say, okay, their logic isn't the key to everything. I'm not saying that we should make an emotional decision about everything, because I think that can certainly lead to some regret. But I think it would be perhaps unwise to just say that we have to have logic and reason for just everything that we do, because then we would all just be robots, and life would be
Smart robots.
I live solely on logic. It's got to make sense, otherwise I'm like,
No,
what?
you don't. You are on Pinterest. You do not live solely on logic. Come on, John.
You don't go fishing because it's logical.
You don't
Yeah, if
refuse
the
to
weather's
watch
good and I feel like
movies
having
from
fun,
before 2000 based on logic. That's not logical.
then whatever.
Anyway, all I'm saying is that I wish we had a vaccine now for everyone that wanted one. Are there risks associated with it? Sure. Are there risks associated with life? Sure. And I think that that's what Dr. Gold talked about. And I think, to Barbara's point, where I find it a little disconcerting is when people are like, and I talked to someone today, they literally said, I don't want to die from this, but once I get vaccinated, I'll feel better. And it's like this key, it's like,
Can we use that word you had on your mask again? Placebo?
But a placebo is a real thing.
Yeah.
So even if just getting those shots fixes your brain to where you can, when you get coronavirus, now you're like, yeah, but I'm not going to die from it, and that keeps you alive, then great, man. Like one of the guys that I do jujitsu with, he's gotten both shots because he also works in the healthcare industry, treats a lot of older patients, and so he was one of the first to get it, and he's like all excited. He's like, man, I'm gonna go do jujitsu with everybody, and I don't even care because I'm vaccinated. And I'm like, amen, dude, like, let's do it. So if it gets me more jujitsu, like, go take it.
I don't like people thinking, oh, this is the end all solution when there's so much to it. It's like, guys, come on.
Yeah, but
Like,
you won't even drink your kombucha.
Dude, it tastes
That's
nasty.
so
That's my
true.
logic behind it.
I
But
think vaccines do too. They ought to just go ahead and have a saline vaccine. Like, go ahead and make it a placebo. Because the thing that's been disturbing to me is not so much the fact of the vaccine. It's that, there's this feeling that it's going to change the world. Like, it'll make it so that I can go back to regular life. But there are people dying from it. That's the part that's disconcerting to me, is that there's people.
How many people have died?
That's the thing. You're not going to find them in the newspaper. I keep meeting people who are like, oh, I'm going to this funeral because healthy dentist in Eastern Washington, he's in his 30s. He dies 2 days after the vaccine. Coincidence? Maybe, probably. He didn't have any pre-existing conditions, but they didn't put his obituary in the paper. Like, we don't talk about it. So I feel like, all right, how about just talk about it? Go ahead and put it out there. If somebody dies right after the COVID vaccine, go ahead and say so. And then, go ahead or make the vaccine just saline so that people can have the placebo effect and go on with their lives.
Hey, look, I got you here. ABC News published an article February 3rd. Fact check. There is no link between COVID-19 vaccines and those who die after receiving them. So CDC verified that.
CDC
Yeah,
or
there's-
ABC?
Well, ABC News covered that the CDC said, look, people die. Some of them just happen to have the coronavirus vaccine before that.
Maybe we
There's
could say that
there's
for the
no link.
coronavirus too, though. Like people die. Some people just happen to die with the virus in their
No,
system.
Barbara, we can't say that. That does
Sorry.
not count. Watch your mouth.
Food for thought, though. The vaccine has not been approved by the FDA.
Look at this. It literally
They-
says this. In
Oh.
fact, an average of 8,000 people die each day in the United States. Some of them may have just received a coronavirus vaccine.
I want to be a fact checker. Can we take a break here and talk about how to become a fact checker? I want that job.
We will give you
What's
that
that?
title after the show ends, and then here's Barb,
Twinkies
the
don't
fact
kill
checker.
you. I will check the facts for you.
See,
Twinkies
that-
bring you happiness.
That's the
Happiness
problem.
makes you live longer. Anyway, go
There
ahead.
you go.
But what I was saying is something to think about. Those of you listening is the FDA has not
Still,
approved. Yeah, if you're still listening,
Yeah, get a
the
life, guys.
the FDA has not approved it. The only approval it has is an emergency use approval or
dude, we're in a
authorization.
pandemic. Of course, it's an
But-
emergency.
Yeah,
but it's
way to
not-
quibble
it's-
over the details.
It's not the original approval that it would go through. So do a little research. Think about that. I mean, that's
research
Wait
like
a
what Alton
second.
was doing. Like
I
we should
just-
fact check it.
yeah. Fact check it on ABC.
Mhm.
They don't lie, right?
Never. The internet doesn't lie.
Oh, television doesn't either.
Yeah, no, definitely podcasts don't.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
not gonna claim to be an expert either.
What did
She
I
really
say?
wants-
8,000 people die every day. Is that what ABC said?
Mhm.
How many people have died from coronavirus in the United States?
I don't know. Are you one of those
What?
ones?
5 billion.
Well, I haven't
probably
died.
Tons and tons.
Y'all don't know the numbers, dude. Okay,
What?
it's about 500,000. 500,000 people, and the big thing is like there were 400,000 when Biden took office, and then immediately there was like this extra 100,000 in the first month or something. Okay, so everybody's wondering like, what's the deal, Biden? Are you killing everybody with coronavirus? It's like so silly. Like, yeah, because he was president, now everyone is dying of coronavirus. It's insane.
Yeah, I thought
Okay,
because
so-
he was president, it was all supposed to go away.
Oh, remember they
Mhm.
guesstimated we were gonna have 2 million dead.
Okay, wait. 500,000 divided by, let's say that we've been in the pandemic for 365 days. Can we say that?
Sure, go for it.
Okay, 500, 1, 2, 3 divided by 365 days should give us how many people per day have died from coronavirus
Let's
in
do
the
it.
United States,
Yeah. Mhm.
which is, let's just say 1,370.
Okay.
But
Out-
8,000 people die each day in the United States. Some of them may have just received a coronavirus vaccine. I'm saying maybe they were just part of the number. I don't think that that's good math. I'm just,
It's okay.
Okay.
I deem you good enough to be a part of the CDC. So I'll let you
Ooh,
go up to Washington
ouch.
and be with them.
That's kind of mean.
Yeah,
Sheesh.
well, they can kiss my
just
butt.
saying that people aren't like looking at the numbers, and then the numbers that they are looking at, they're just justifying for their own case, like,
Turns out-
oh, here's my bias.
Yeah.
I'm going to find a stat that will support how I feel.
Yeah, data will say anything if you torture it long enough.
Mhm.
This is
Yep.
true, but I don't
Which
know.
is why you have to spend more time on Pinterest, because that's more of a pure world, I think. It's more about the ribbons and the glue and the. Anyway, was there
You're just
another
gonna
point?
ring it, huh?
Yeah.
And we have to, speaking
lot.
of pure,
Ding.
The podcasters can't see that, so
oh, well, I have this beautiful halo now because of Zoom.
because you like Beyonce.
What?
Really? Am I the only one on the show that gets that?
Yep.
What? Okay.
We
I'm
don't
gonna be
hang out
quiet
on
then.
Pinterest. There's just stuff I don't know.
Whatever.
So,
Okay. So the final hot topic of the new updates for COVID since the last time we discussed it is schools and reopenings. Apparently, there's still several schools out there in other states that are not open or still planning to open. It is
several.
yeah, there's
I think
several. I mean,
the
they're
entire
fighting with
state
the
over
union.
here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, y'all are still completely shut down as far as schools go?
I think there are some hybrid. There's some like a couple days in, couple days out. But yeah, we had a union president, a teachers union president, say that wanting to go back to school in person was a sign of our white privilege, and they
What?
are. Yeah. Okay, I'll find the article. It was good, but you've got all these people that it turns out, especially in Eastern Washington, there's schools that there's a huge number of students that are English as a second language. The whole Zoom thing, it's wreaked havoc. I talked to teachers.
Like you
they're
have
just like, "This has
primarily
been-"
French people there or what?
That's exactly what I'm saying. You don't
'Cause
hang
all
out in
the
Washington
Canadians?
much, do you?
Yeah.
No, you're
Canadian.
being serious, aren't you? Okay. No, we have mostly Hispanic. We have a lot of Spanish
What?
speaking. Yeah. We farm in Washington.
Wow.
Yeah, we
It is right on the border, man.
a bit of like, wow. Anyway, so yeah, some of the links that
Credibility
they
out
have
the window.
out the window, yeah. That they're
It's
trying
literally
to
on the border, is it not? Tell me it's
Of
not on the
Canada,
border.
but not
Canada,
of Mexico
yes.
is the
I said border.
true. We're on the border of a couple.
Is there a
things.
wall on that border?
No.
It will be soon. Canada
There you
does
go.
want to keep us out.
Dude, Canada's strict. They're
We'll
really
keep the
strict.
virus out, too.
You can't just roll into Canada, man. They're not even selling their silver and gold right now. You can't get it. They're like, nah, we're in a pandemic. I am not selling you our silver and gold. Sorry, US.
Why would we want to buy Canada silver and gold?
Yeah, wouldn't it be
because
like
we
half
do?
the value?
Because it's 4.9 fine, man. I don't know about Canada's precious metals. That's where a lot of our silver comes from. Huge silver mines up there. And in Canada, just side note, y'all, going not coronavirus land here, but the pandemic has affected it. So there, I brought it back. We are not on the gold standard. We just print money. 1.9 trillion. Who cares? Doesn't matter. It's monopoly money anyway. So this is true of like everything. It's all fiat currency, right? Well, we in the United States will sell gold coins and silver eagles, but the face value is so far underneath the actual value that, like, I think an ounce of gold is a $50 face value, but it's worth $2,000. Okay, stay awake, John. I'm
Barb,
bringing
I
this back.
blame you for bringing on this conversation. We were talking schools and you turned it
Canada?
into gold. and
Okay,
stuff.
sorry. Back to the
All
school.
right,
So there's
so-
this tuba player in a pod. Can I go there? There's this school in Eastern Washington. They're trying to open up again, and they're trying to open up music because apparently you can't play through your flute without spitting coronavirus over the world, right? So band programs have all been shut down, and there's this one school that made national news because they were trying to figure out how to reopen not just the classrooms, but their band. And so each of the band members, 6 feet apart, is in this pod. It's like a plastic zip-in seal. I've got to find the picture. People, you should follow us on social media. I will stick it up there because this poor kid playing a tuba is all jammed into what looks like sort of a Ziploc bag, only green, like, and they're playing like inside their pods. And I'm telling you, the mind reels. Can you think of what those would smell like at the end of an hour? Did you all do band in high school?
No.
Oh, you were at okay. The smell of band rooms by themselves back when in the day that you could actually like ventilate. It was terrible. Can you imagine compacting that into these little pods? I just anyway, the lengths that people go to, and I don't know if they are mic'd and they can hear each other or what, but I just thought we're gonna have a whole generation of band nerds that are never gonna procreate. It's bad enough that we get made fun of for the marching band uniforms. This is terrible though. Like, go ahead, zip you in, do your scales. Continue. See?
Yeah.
Brought it back to
Meanwhile,
schools
the football people are like smashing each other.
with their masks on.
Are they really?
Depends on where you're really at. A lot of the football, they don't have masks.
I mean, mask on the sidelines, of course.
Well,
Oh,
sure,
yeah.
yeah.
Because you're not going to
Sure.
spit in somebody's face while you're tackling them.
Well, that and football players already have so much gear on. A mask would
Dude,
feel
you're
sort of
literally sitting there
redundant.
going the entire time.
Yeah.
Like, that's what's happening.
But
Like
I mean, just, like,
everyone is confused. I
you're so
wondered
protected and
with those green pods, like, was that their school colors? Because I mean, maybe you could just march around in your pod with
Oh,
your school
maybe.
colors.
I don't remember
Then it'd
their
be kind
school.
of
I
cool,
don't
like
think so,
flavor.
actually. I think the green is random.
But it makes me laugh because all these states are arguing, is it safe? It's not safe. No, dude, Texas has been open this whole damn time. We shut down spring break roughly last year, and they shut down basically for the rest of the year. And then this year they've been fully open. We've been sending our kids to school. Of course, Austin, they actually had a freak out where they were like, "Oh my God, we think we have way too many cases. We're gonna shut down, test everybody, and then we'll determine whether we can come back." I think that was like on a Thursday. They tested everybody. They found 4 cases. They're like, okay, I guess we got to open up on Monday. So even at my kids' schools, they haven't had many cases. You know, Katie, my oldest, she did get quarantined for 1 week, but it was like nothing.
Did she have coronavirus? I never heard.
No, and she was right next to the girl doing track, no mask, having fun, tossing the baton to each other. Perfectly fine. None of us in the house caught it. Like, schools are safe. Let's get life going. Here's the other thing to think about, though, is how much have they already suffered? So I talked about how we only shut down for part of a semester last year. Well, even being shut down that period of time, not having anything going for sports and things like that for the kids. I mean, they're not lifting weights or anything. My daughter did track this year. Her time, just this last meet, was her first meet. She's about 10 seconds slower in her 400. 10 seconds. That is how much she's lost from last year's time. That's ridiculous. I mean, that's just talking about sports and the differences there.
Well, I think that I mean, just recently I've talked to a few different friends who their kids are failing. Like they were supposed to hang out with my kids and they're like, sorry, they're grounded for 6 weeks because they got a 50 in the class. And these are smart kids, you know, good students that up until now, this has never been an issue. And so you have this exacerbation from the parents who are like, I don't even know why, and I don't know what to do. And, you know, they're feeling really stuck, even with this form of openness. I still don't know if it's as conducive to genuine learning, or I guess I just want to point out that even if something is open, there still seems to be this kind of like looming, overshadowing problem that is affecting our children and their grades. And, you know, I guess, I don't know if it's logical for me to think, but I'm kind of like hoping that the government not mandating all of these things, that the schools, at least by next year, I understand that things aren't going to change immediately. You know, we got a few coming up on spring break, finish out the year, and maybe things can come back to a little bit more normal next year, to where kids can actually get the learning and the education that they need and not be, you know, so like burdened down with the stress of don't touch your friend and, you know, like wear your mask and play your tuba in a pod. It's going to make our kids nuts.
Well, suicide rates have gone up for kids for sure. I mean, there's at our school, there have been several that have committed suicide in the last year.
Like actually successfully committed, if that's the word for it. But
unfortunately,
I mean, because I'm trying is one thing, but then actually.
No, and we, over the last several years, I haven't heard of any. When I was in high school, it didn't happen. No one was killing themselves. It was always car accidents and things like that, unfortunately. But we had several that have killed themselves this year. And you're in that school district too.
Yeah. The thing for me, and I could almost guarantee that this is going to come across as insensitive, and that's certainly not what I mean it to be. And I don't even know if I'm right on this, but I just feel like we're really raising a soft generation. Um, like Dr. Seuss just got canceled, because it's racist. And like Barbara, what you were saying, somebody wants to go to school and that's white privilege. And I don't know, but like bullying was a problem when I grew up, and I'm not saying that I like it or that it was good, but I feel like for a lot of people that it made them tougher. And now kids are choosing suicide and like having mental breakdowns as opposed to facing the issues. And maybe I'm just more aware of it because I'm a parent now. But I just feel like a lot of the response of our nation has been a soft response, and that it was a response of fear, not a response of like, we're gonna be okay, we're gonna have some faith and get through this together. It's like, no, hide from each other and shame you for not wearing masks and make you feel guilty for whatever, wanting to eat out. Or I mean, I saw it today. Somebody posted on Instagram, no, not wearing their masks, and they're like, "Wear your masks." Really? Like that's what our society has come to, like posting on Instagram about not wearing masks instead of, being helpful and like that's your own choice.
I have a
So
theory about this because I think you're right. I think we are raising a soft generation. And part of it, I don't know that it's the whole story, but I kind of wonder if part of it is that we have put this inappropriate emphasis on safety. I think about these kids that have gotten so depressed, discouraged, afraid that suicide seems like a viable option, right? And in some ways, I wonder if part of why is that they are the only ones that are facing that they are not safe. And I think part of our job as parents, part of our job as educators is not to raise our kids that safety is the highest goal in life. Safety is not the highest goal in life. And I think we are a generation, in multiple generations that don't understand that there are things worth dying for. And those things are family and hearth and home and football games. And there are just things that I look, motorcycles, right? Like we have just enough medical technology and advancement to make us dangerous to ourselves in the worst ways, right? We have this illusion of safety. And the question, is it safe to go back to school? It's the wrong question. The question never should be, is it safe to open? Is it safe to go back to church? It's the wrong question. Is it worth it to open? Is it worth it to go back to church? All of these things that we have limited as if they don't matter in the name of safety, but we don't ever have safety.
Tweak it the other way. Is it really worth closing? I think really should be the question you should have asked in the beginning.
Well, I personally did, but you guys didn't have me on the show back then.
Well, I'm not going to say anything else because Barbara, I think you totally just summed it up. If you want the right answers, you need to ask the right questions, and I think that you just totally slayed it. Like when you ask that question, is this a safe thing to do? Then you get one answer, but is this the right thing to do? That's totally different.
Yeah.
Different answer potentially.
One thing that all three of us should be grateful of is we've all been at home with our kids, being able to handle a mixture of either at home or in schooling. But there's a lot of parents out there that have to go to work, and either they're leaving their kid here to learn on their own at their house, or they're having to find some other solution. I mean, it's rough, but guys, it's been time to open. We should have never shut down for anywhere near this long.
Shouldn't have shut down, period.
At the end. It was worth a shot in the beginning. Yes, I was never really okay with shutting down. I get it, but it's okay. Try. You did. You failed. It's time to move on. Because it's just, you keep adding time, right? It was only supposed to be, 2 weeks, and now we're a year into it.
52.
And they're still saying, oh, we need 6 more weeks before Texas opens. Then it'll be okay. No.
That's why I
No.
don't think we ever should have tried it. There's some things that you don't have to try to know that it's a terrible idea. Pencils in your eye. You don't have to try it to know it's a bad idea. Like, just don't do it. Shutting down the entire economy because we're afraid we might get a cold. Don't do it. It's a bad idea.
The government shutting
Yes, the
us
government
down.
shutting down.
Look, if I wanted to just close up my shop, my business, great. And I understand that that doesn't apply to everybody. And yeah, I get it, you know. But that's, to me, that's what freedom is about. Like, you can argue all of these things. Like, we're in our homeschool, we're talking about the history of the United States and how there was just no tolerance for this type of tyranny. And George Washington, all of the founding fathers would have been shooting people like so long ago.
Yeah.
Well, it was
and
okay
just
to have a duel on the
laughed at us.
streets back then.
That's what I'm saying.
I learned
They
that from Hamilton because somebody made me watch it recently.
They weren't
Because
soft.
it was made after 2000.
They weren't soft, man. Like, how many attempts did like people try to shoot Lincoln? And he's like, whatever, you know.
Still went to the movies. Yeah. Isn't it Benjamin Franklin? It's like, those that are willing to sacrifice liberty for safety deserve neither. I'm butchering the quote, but I mean, that's the gist. Like, you can't have both.
Yeah, I think, and I didn't think that this podcast was going to evolve to this, but I think I tell Heather a lot about this. These are the problems that we have with an affluent society. I need my safe space, you know, cyberbullying. And I'm not saying that those things are good or bad. I just think that there's this utopian idea that we're all just going to be safe and protected and somebody's going to take care of me. And that's leading to like burning Dr. Seuss books. And I think that while that doesn't have anything to do with the coronavirus, it does have to do with you giving authority to other people to run your life. And maybe that's great if they're gracious gods, but you know, like, there's been no time in history where people are, you know, this cancel culture where that's been a good thing.
Yeah. It's totally connected. Coronavirus and Dr. Seuss canceling. We're allowed to cancel everybody because of the precedent set due to COVID restrictions. So they're totally connected. That made total sense. We are a
you
coherent
can't, yeah, but you can't
podcast
say
today.
like mom or father anymore. And it's like, when you look at why children are committing suicide, that's like a huge one is gender and sexual identity confusion. And I'm like, this is the problem we have created. I'm sorry, everyone, but
He's not sorry.
this is look, I have people that, you know, may feel that way genuinely, and I'm not trying to be a jerk about it, but I'm not going to sit here and not share, you know, my own, I guess, truth or the way I look at it. And I think that that's part of the problem, is that anything that you don't like is like offensive and we need to cancel it. Like, I can't call you fat. Like, someone
Not
just
anymore,
cried
'cause
listening.
I totally just lost weight recently. So now it's like not even applicable. No, I
like,
was agreeing
you
with you.
can't
Like,
say
don't
that.
apologize. He's not sorry because he doesn't need to be sorry. This is
And
accurate.
I'm not saying that it would be nice for me to call you fat, but look, if you're, you know, 50 pounds over your ideal weight, then maybe that's something, you know.
Shoot, you can still call me fat. That's uncomfortable. I was all excited. Tune in a few months. Anyway.
So I guess that's kind of our update on COVID. I know this isn't our normal show where we have a deciding factor question there at the end, but I think this was a good update. I mean, this gives us a chance to share what's going on in the current world, give you our thoughts and opinions of it, and still giving you our decisions. But do y'all have any other final thoughts as far as what we've talked about? Maybe there's another tweak to COVID that we that you want to talk about, or
John, I just love the opportunity to come on your show and rant the whole time. It was great. And I'm going to go pop some popcorn and wait for the comments about you surfing Pinterest and how I called Barbara fat during our podcast. So
I'm not
ready.
getting the hate
Get-
mail today. It's okay. I'm happy
You're
with
Look,
that.
let me say this. If me saying the word fat on here has offended you, then you proved my point that
Oh,
you're
yeah.
soft.
And I'll give you his
Easily
cell phone
offended.
number. It's 512 7.
You're going through a tunnel.
I was just looking for a reason to get rid of my phone. Dude.
But then
No, I
I
just
don't have a
think
way to bug you anymore.
I know,
We've
but I've had that
gotten-
same number for 20 years, and I'm just like, do I really need this? Man.
John, help me.
Hmm.
All right, guys. Well, we will catch you again on the next deciding factor. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. If you're only listening to the podcast, you're missing all this beauty on the
Oh, this
video
beauty.
itself and the weird things that he likes to pop up on the camera and all the
Oh,
laughter
yeah, you're
that
totally missing out if you're just on the podcast.
Yeah.
Making all sorts of funny faces over here.
Yeah. So make sure you check out YouTube. Also, everything's posted on our social media. So make sure you comment. And eventually we will give out Alton's cell phone number. So be prepared for that one. And I guess that pretty much does it for this one, guys. So y'all say bye.
Adios.
Bye.
This has been another episode of The Deciding Factor, giving you food for thought on real life issues. Be sure to click, like, and subscribe to this podcast, as well as all your big social media outlets, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Don't forget to check out our website at thedecidingfactorpodcast.com and give us comments and feedback. Until next time, stay safe and remember to keep an open mind.